Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I'll give a brief summary what we discussed last week. Last week we discussed a brief summary of the Tattva Sandarbha, brief summary of the Bhagavad Sandarbha, and then we discussed how the Paramatma Sandarbha, we discussed the bird's eye view of the Paramatma Sandarbha. The Paramatma Sandarbha has got 4 parts. The first part is about the ontology of the Paramatma. The subject of Paramatma is described in first 18 anucchedas. And then the second part is the ontology. Ontology means, what is the meaning of the word ontology? Means prameya. The dictionary meaning is the metaphysical study of the nature of being and existence, or a rigorous and exhaustive organization of some knowledge domain that is usually hierarchical and contains all the relevant entities and the relations. So basically, detailed study of the nature of being and existence. The first part is about the detailed study of the Paramatma. That is the first 18 anucchedas. And the second part is the ontology of the Jivatma, detailed study of the Jivatma. So that is the 19th to 47th anuccheda. And the third part is the ontology of the Maya, the study of Maya, nature of the function, nature and function of Maya. So that is the third part, 48th anuccheda to 55th anuccheda. And then there is a fourth part, the prime subject of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The prime subject of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is at the end, 105 to 110th anuccheda. Of course, in between, 48 to 55 is the ontology of the Maya, and then 56th anuccheda to 81st anuccheda is the relation of the material world with the super soul, and 82nd anuccheda to 104th anuccheda is the Maya's relation to Jivatma and the super soul. So we discussed just the brief overview of the first 18 anucchedas, that is the ontology of the Paramatma, the subject of the Paramatma. And we began with the first anuccheda. In the first anuccheda, Paramatma is defined. Paramatma is defined. So, although the Paramatma aspect of Bhagavan exists in the Vaikuntha also, in the spiritual domain of Vaikuntha also, but that Paramatma is just a function of the Bhagavan himself. For this reason, Paramatma is said to be that feature of Bhagavan which pertains specifically to the cosmos. So Paramatma is basically the feature of Bhagavan which is in relation to the material world. Tat syadittam jagadgatam vachyam. So in the following 2 shlokas, we discussed from the 5th canto, 11th chapter, 12th and 13th shloka. First, Jada Bharat describes the nature of the Jivatma. And then the second shloka, he describes the nature of the Paramatma. Kṣetrajña manaso vibhutir जीवस्य माया रचितस्य नित्याः आविर्हिता क्वापि तिरोहिताश्च शुद्धो विचष्टे ह्यविशुद्धकर्तुः. So the Shuddha, the pure knower of the Kshetra, merely perceives the beginningless modifications of the mind, which is the impure act. Avishuddha Kartuhu Vichashte. And this mind is there with the living entity since beginningless time. And it has so many modifications, so many impressions are there in the mind. So the pure knower of the Kshetra merely perceives the beginningless modifications of the impure actor mind. And that mind is nothing but an upadhi of the empiric self and a product of Maya. The mind is nothing but an upadhi of the Jivatma and a product of Maya. And the modifications are sometimes manifest during the Jagriti and Swapna Avastha. And during the deep sleep, Sushupti Avastha, the impressions of the mind are unmanifest. So this is the first shloka. And then the second shloka says that Kṣetrajña Atma Purusha Purana Sakshat Swayanjyoti Rajap Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudeva Swamayayatman Yavidiya Avadiyamanaha. So the supreme witness of the field is the immanent self, the Paramatma, who is the Purusha Purana, the primordial person, the most ancient person. Satya Swayam Jyoti, who is unmediatedly self-revealing, who is unborn, the almighty controller, the interior regulator of all beings, Narayana, and who is inherently endowed with potency. Swamayaya, endowed with the potency, the substratum of all beings, Vasudeva, and who is established in his own intrinsic being, who is established in his own Swarupa Shakti, by virtue of the potency that is innate to his own being. Swamayayatman avadiyamanaha. So this is the shloka we are discussing. And then we began to discuss the meaning of the shloka. So the living entity, even though he is pure, Shuddhaha api, but he perceives the Vichashte means Visheshena Pashyati. Even though he is pure, he perceives the familiar modifications of the mind. Manaso Antakaranas Yeta Prasiddha Vibhutir Vritti Vichashte Visheshena Pasyan. He perceives the familiar modifications of the mind. And upon seeing the modifications of the mind, he starts identifying with it. And that person is the Jiva. He starts identifying with it. And Tatra Avishto Bhavati. Avishto Bhavati means he identifies with it, and that person is the Jiva. So even though pure, Shuddhaha api, means that although he is transcendental to Maya, the living entity, Paropi Manute Nartham, although he is transcendental to Maya, but he still identifies himself with the mind. The word Vichashte means clearly seeing, Visheshena Pashyan. So the phrase these familiar presentations of the mind, vibhutir, these familiar presentations of the mind refers to the modifications of the mind. So, which is the internal or psychical apparatus generated by the Maya of he who is the witness of all the fields. So this mind is generated by the Maya potency, and that Maya potency is the potency of the Paramatma, who is the witness of all the bodies. And that Paramatma will be described in the next shloka. So this Jivatma is referred to as a witness of the field because it is the knower of the field. The Jivatma is the knower of both the gross body and the subtle body. And then Jiva Goswami quoted the shloka, Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manutenartam tatkritam chapi padyate. So bewildered with the external potency, the individual self, although transcendental to the three gunas of material nature, thinks of himself to be made of the three gunas. And therefore he undergoes the misery resulting from the misidentification. So we'll further continue. Tasya manasaha. Tasya manasaha. Kīdrishataya maya rachitasya. So by what characteristics is the mind to be understood as a product of Maya? So mind is described as a product of Maya. Kīdrishataya maya rachitasya. By what characteristics is the mind to be understood as a product of Maya? Tatra aha. In response, Jadabharat says, Jivasya jivopaditaya jiva tadatmyena rachitasya. So the mind is that which pertains to the empirical self, the Jivatma. The mind pertains to the Jivatma, meaning that the mind is created as an upadhi of the Jivatma. Jiva upaditaya, jiva tadatmyena rachitasya. The mind pertains to the Jivatma and it is created as an upadhi of the Jivatma. Tatascha tat tayo pachariyamanasyethyartah. Tatascha tat taya upacharyamanasya ityartah. Meaning that this indicates that the mind is a creation with which the jiva becomes identified. Meaning that it is henceforth taken to be the living entity's actual identity. So, mind is a creation with which the jiva becomes identified, meaning that mind is taken to be the living entity's actual identity. Actually, the jivatma is transcendental to both the gross body and the subtle body. But the living entity identifies himself with the mind. So mind is that which pertains to the Jivatma, and the mind is created as an upadhi of the Jivatma, but the Jivatma identifies himself with the mind. And then further he says, Tatascha kīdrishasya. Tatascha kīdrishasya. How is the mind further described? Avishuddham Bhagavat Bahirmukam Karma Karoti iti Tadrishasya. Avishuddham Bhagavat Bahirmukam Karma Karoti. Mind is impure. Bhagavat Bahirmukam means what? Bhagavat Bhagirmukham karma means those actions which are undertaken from thinking oneself to be independent of Bhagavan. So actions that are undertaken from the separate self-sense, rooted in non-awareness of Bhagavan. So because of identifying ourselves with the mind, a living entity performs those actions in forgetfulness of Bhagavan. In forgetfulness of Bhagavan. Bhagavat Bhagirmukham karma karoti iti. Because of identifying with the mind, a person becomes absorbed in activities which have no connection with Bhagavan. Yeah. Not understanding one's Swarupa as the servant of Bhagavan. Kīdrashīr vibhūtihi. How are the presentations or the modifications of the mind described? How are the modifications of the mind described? Nitya anadita eva anugataha. They are continuous, meaning that they are beginningless. And anugata, and they proceed in perpetual succession. The mind is there with the living entity since beginningless time. There is no beginning for that material mind. And it is just continuing. They proceed in perpetual succession. Eva anugata. Tatracha kada kidrishi. How and when are these modifications manifest? How are these modifications manifest? And when are these modifications manifest? Ityapekshayamaha jagrat swapnayor avirbhutaha sushuptau tirohitarcha iti. So the modifications of the mind are manifest during the Jagrati and the Swapna. And during Sushupti, they disappear. During Sushupti, they disappear. In this way, he is describing the mind. And then, now he describes the Paramatma. So the first verse explanation he has completed. The second verse explains the Paramatma. Yastu Purano Jagat Karana Bhutaha Purushaha Adyovatara Purusha Parasya Bhagavatam 2.6.41 Ityadina Dvitiyadau Prasiddhaha. On the other hand, there is another witness. Dvitiya. There is a second witness. There is another witness who is described as follows. He is the Adyovatara Purusha Purana, Jagat Karana Bhuta Purusha. He is the Purana Purusha. He is the primeval person. Meaning that he is the unconditional cause of the cosmos. As is well known in the second canto description. The Purusha is the first or primary descent of Bhagavan. Adyovatara Purusha Parasya. The Bhagavan's first avatara is the Purusha avatara. And he is the unconditional cause of the cosmos. Jagat Karana Bhutaha. We are reading this paragraph. And Sakshadeva Swayanjyotihi Swaprakashaha. This is the second point. He is self-revealing. And unmediatedly self-existent. Normally, we get to know somebody through an instrument. Through another person or through an instrument, we get knowledge of something. But the Paramatma is self-revealing. There is no mediation in between. Only when he chooses to reveal, we can understand. That means what? Natu jivavat anya apekshaya. That means Paramatma does not depend on anyone, as is the case with the jiva. Paramatma does not depend on anyone, as is the case with the jivatma. Jivatma is dependent on somebody. But Paramatma, self-revealing. And then Ajo, Janmadi Shunyaha, he is unborn. That means he is altogether free from the birth and all the other transformations. Janmadi Shunyaha. Paresham Brahmadinam Apishaha. Paresham Brahmadinam Apishaha means he is the Almighty controller. Meaning that he is the controller even of the powerful gods like Brahma. And then Naram Jiva Samuhaha Niyamyatvena Ayanam Yasya Saha. So Naram means what? Naram means Jiva Samuha, all living beings. He is Narayana because meaning that he supports the all living beings. Naram Jiva Samuha Swa Niyamyatvena Ayanam Yasya Saha. He supports all living beings. The fifth point. He supports all living beings through his own power of interior regulation. And then further he says, Bhagavan Aishwaryadyam Bhagavan Aishwaryadyamshavan Bhagavadamshatvat. Bhagavan means what? He is partially Aishwaryadi Amshavan. He is partially endowed with the inherent potency. Because he is an integral portion of Bhagavan. So the Paramatma is partially endowed with the inherent potency, partially endowed with the Swarupa Shakti. Because Paramatma is the Amsha of Bhagavan. Bhagavad Amshatva. And then is called as Vasudeva. Vasudeva Sarvabhutanam Ashrayaha is the shelter of the substratum of all living beings. And then the eighth point is Swa Mayaya Swaswarupa Shaktya Atmani Swaswarupe Avadiyamano Avastapyamanaha. Avadiyamana means established. He is established in the self. Atmani Avadiyamanaha. Or in other words, Swamayaya Swaswarupa Shaktya Atmani Swaswarupe Avadiyamano Avastapyamana. It is established in the self, or in other words, in his own intrinsic being. In his own intrinsic being, by virtue of the potency that is innate to his own being, which here refers to the Swarupa Shakti. So, Karma Kartru Prayogaha. Karma Kartru Prayoga is a Vyakarana term, it's a technical grammatical term. Mayayam Mayikep Anantaryamittvena Pravishtopi Swarupa Shaktya Swarupastha Eva Natu Tat Samsakta Ityartaha. So that means, so here the Karma Kartari Prayog. Karma Kartari Prayog is the Here the passive voice has been used in the sense of the active. Karma kartari. The avadiyamana, which is glossed as the avastapyamana, which is glossed by the word avastapyamana, is in the passive voice. The use of the passive would imply that there is another agent who is doing the action of placing or situating. But Jiva Goswami is clarifying that there is no other such agent. Paramatma accomplishes this by his own agency of intrinsic potency. Because this does not involve any effort on his part, the passive voice has been used. So karma kartari prayog is a special kind of a prayoga. When a person performs an action without putting any effort on his part. That means when a person performs an action effortlessly, that time karma kartari prayog is used. So Paramatma effortlessly he is situated in the self, or in other words, in his own intrinsic being by the Swarupa Shakti. So the meaning is that although he has entered the external potency of Maya, the Paramatma has entered the material body of every living entity. Paramatma has entered the material world, which is made of Maya. Although the Paramatma is immanent within the conditioned individual being, as the indwelling self, but by his own Swarupa Shakti, he remains situated in his own intrinsic being. That means he is not in contact with Maya. He is not in contact with Maya. Although he is there within the material body, but he is completely untouched. He is there in his own transcendental position. So, Mayayam Mayike Antaryamittvena Pravishtopi Swarupa Shaktya Swarupasta Eva Natu Tat Sansakta Ityartha. This example I have given previously many times. When you eat a halwa, after eating the halwa, your hand becomes sticky with oil or a ghee. So therefore you put a soap and then wash the hand. But your tongue also comes in contact with the halwa. But do we wash the tongue by putting the soap? No. Tongue is also part of the body. But the tongue does not become sticky after eating the halwa, that you need to wash the tongue with the soap. So one part of the body gets affected by the sticky sensation of the oil, but another part of the body does not get affected. Similarly, the Jivatma within the body, he identifies with the material mind and the material body. But the Paramatma is also within the body, but Paramatma never identifies. Paramatma is never affected by the Atma, Maya Shakti. Paramatma is situated in his own transcendental position. So in this way, he explains these 8 points about the Paramatma, basically explanation of the second shloka. And then further he says, Vasudevatvena Sarva Kṣetrajñatrutvat Toparo Maya Mohitat Jivad Anyo Maya Rahitah Shuddha Kṣetrajña Atma Paramatma iti. So the other witness, the Kṣetrajña, is distinct from the Jivatma. Jivad Anya. Because Sarva Kṣetrajñatrutvat, because he is the knower or the witness of all the Kshetras. Why? Because Vasudevatvena, because he is the shelter due to being Vasudeva, the shelter of all beings. In contrast, the Kṣetrajña described in the first shloka In the previous, that Kṣetrajña refers to Jivatma and he knows only the one body. But the Paramatma is the knower of all the bodies. Kṣetrajñam chapimam viddhi sarvakshetreshu bharata. Krishna says that I am the knower of all the bodies. So tadevam api mukyam kshetrajñatvam Paramatma anyena. Paramatmanyeva. So that means that the other supreme witness is distinct from the jiva who is deluded by Maya. Who is deluded by Maya. So being utterly free from the influence of Maya, the other witness is the pure Kṣetrajña. He is the pure Shuddha Kṣetrajña. The other witness is the pure Kṣetrajña and the Atma, which here refers to Paramatma. The second shloka, although the word Atma is used, but here it refers to Paramatma. So for these reasons also, the primary quality of Kṣetrajña is found only in the Paramatma. So the primary qualities of a Kṣetrajña is found only in the Paramatma. The secondary qualities are found in the individual Kṣetrajña, that is the Jivatma. And then Jiva Goswami quotes Bhagavatam from the Hamsa Gukhya prayers. Taduktam Sarvam Puman Veda Gunam Cha Tagyo Naveda Sarvagyam Anantamide. Bhagavatam 6.4.25. Although the Jivatma can know all these, that means the body, senses, mind, so on, as well as the gunas of the primordial nature, but the Jivatma does not know the omniscient, unlimited Bhagavan whom I worship. In this way, this is the first part of the first anuccheda. So, I'll read the commentary briefly. So, in the first book, Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami established the Bhagavatam as the Chakravarti Pramana. And he also established that the Bhagavatam, which is the essence of the Vedas, describes three topics: Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana. Sambandha is the relation between the absolute reality and its energies. So the whole material world is a manifestation of two of the energies of Bhagavan. That is the Jivatma and the Maya. So therefore, to understand Sambandha, it is necessary to understand the Sambandhi or the referent of the relation. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Sandarbha, the author first explained in detail who that absolute reality is, who that Bhagavan is. Now, with this Paramatma Sandarbha, he focuses on the individual beings and the primordial nature, the Prakriti, which are the two constituents of the cosmos. And he also focuses on the regulator of the cosmos, that is the Paramatma. Matter, spirit, and the controller of both. Knowledge means to know the matter, spirit, and the controller of the both. Kṣetrajñayor jnanam. So Bhagavad Sandarbha began with the citation of the shloka Vadantita Tattvavidas Tattvam Yadjnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. So Bhagavad Sandarbha and Paramatma Sandarbha together, these two Sandarbhas is nothing but a explanation of this shloka 1.2.11. So this 1.2.11 talks about the absolute three aspects of the absolute truth: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahman and Bhagavan were the subject of the second Sandarbha, Bhagavad Sandarbha. Now Paramatma will be explained in this third Sandarbha. Therefore, it is called Paramatma Sandarbha. So Jiva Goswami did not have a separate Sandarbha for Brahman. Brahman and Bhagavan both were described in the second Sandarbha. Paramatma is described in the third Sandarbha. So Paramatma was earlier described by Jiva Goswami in the Bhagavad Sandarbha as follows. He said that when this Tattva in the form of Bhagavan, which has all the above stated qualities, and the complete manifestation of absolute reality, when that Bhagavan is described or realized as the controller or the regulator of the living beings by the process described before, he is called Paramatma, or the Supreme Immanent. This is how he described Paramatma in the Anuccheda 3 of the Bhagavad Sandarbha. So the definite feature of Paramatma is that he is controlling or regulating power. So Jivatmas are never fully independent, neither in the conditioned state nor in the liberated state. There is only one supreme independent reality, that is Bhagavan. And Jiva Goswami says that Bhagavan is Sri Krishna along with his various Leela avatars. So therefore, the aspect of Bhagavan that embodies the regulatory or controlling function is called Paramatma. So in the spiritual world, there is no separate Paramatma. Bhagavan himself acts as the Paramatma. There is no separate Paramatma. But in the material world, he takes a special Paramatma form. In the spiritual world, there is no Paramatma. There is only the Brahman, the effulgence from the body of Bhagavan and the Bhagavan. Bhagavan himself acts as the Paramatma. But in the material world only, Bhagavan takes the role of a Paramatma. So a doubt can come that Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. So in the 1.2.11, the absolute truth is described in sequence as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So one may think that the Paramatma Sandarbha should have come before. Paramatma Sandarbha should have come before the Bhagavad Sandarbha. Why it came later? So there are two reasons. First of all, there is no separate Sandarbha for the explanation of the Brahman. Because the Brahman is included within the Bhagavad Sandarbha, which describes Bhagavan. For example, in the Jiva Goswami mentioned that Ata Atra Brahma Sandarbho Api Avantarataya Mataha. Brahman is included in the Bhagavad Sandarbha. So therefore, because Brahman is to be explained previous to Paramatma as per the order of words. In the 1.2.11, Bhagavad Sandarbha, which contains Brahma Sandarbha, must come prior to Paramatma Sandarbha. So Brahman is a manifestation or realization of the Bhagavan devoid of qualities, form, Shaktis. So Brahman cannot be comprehended without knowing Bhagavan. So therefore, Brahman and Bhagavan are together described in the second Sandarbha. Brahman cannot be comprehended without knowing Bhagavan. Brahman is basically Bhagavan minus the qualities, energies, etc. And the second reason, according to the hermeneutic principle, is that the order according to meaning overrides the word order. Patakramat arthakramo baliyan. So the order is Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. But order according to the meaning, it overrides the word order. So the Bhagavat Sandarbha should come before Paramatma Sandarbha because Bhagavan is the source of the Paramatma as well as to Brahman. So therefore, to understand Brahman and Paramatma, first you have to understand the source of them. So that is indispensable. Therefore, first Bhagavan is described and therefore the Paramatma Sandarbha has come later. And Paramatma is the regulator of the Maya potency. And this Maya, through the Maya, the Lord manifests the cosmos. And the Paramatma is also the regulator of the individual living entities, being conditioned by the material energy. The material energy conditions the living entity by covering its self-awareness, by covering its Swarupa, and by providing the living entity with a material body. So in order to understand the controller Paramatma, it is also necessary to understand the controlled. It is necessary to understand the controlled, that means the Jivatma and the Maya. So therefore, Jiva Goswami cites two shlokas spoken by Jadabharat to Rahugana. The first shloka describes the characteristics of the Jivatma. The second shloka describes the characteristics of the Paramatma in relation to the cosmos, in relation to the cosmos, in relation to the Maya. So Jivatma and Paramatma both are called Kṣetrajña. Kṣetrajña means the witness of the Kṣetra. The internal and external. So like many verses of the Bhagavatam, these two shlokas also involve a certain ambiguity, in the sense that they don't overtly means what? Explicitly. They don't overtly state that the Kṣetrajña they describe are different from each other. Because the first Kṣetrajña, the Jivatma, the second Kṣetrajña is the Paramatma. But they don't explicitly describe that the Kṣetrajñas are different. So therefore, these two verses, they have the potential. They give room for interpreting these verses from a Advaita, monistic point of view. And that Advaitavada holds that there is only one single consciousness that appears both as the Jivatma and the Paramatma. So, in the commentaries to both the previous and the following verses, Sridhar Swami does make the statement that the two Kṣetrajñas are different, Paramatma and the Jivatma. A fact acceptable to all Vedantists. But Sridhar Swami, however, seems to lean toward the monistic view by saying the Kṣetrajña, the witness to the three states, Jagrati, Swapna and Sushupti, is the Atma, the reality. So Jiva Goswami clarifies the matter in his commentary where the subject of Kshetra and Kshetrajña is discussed. So Jiva Goswami is specifically choosing these two shlokas so that one cannot misconstrue. Misconstrue means what? Misconstrue means interpret in the wrong way. So Jiva Goswami is specifically chosen these two shlokas so that one cannot misinterpret the radical monistic theory. Radical monistic theory means Advaitavad, in which they talk about the identity of the Jivatma with the Brahman. So Kshetra means literally means the field. So Kshetra refers to the physical body. So Kshetra, just like in the field we put the grows, we put the seeds. Seeds are sown in the field and they grow and then they produce some fruit. Similarly, the physical body serves as a field of action. The physical body is serving as a field of karma. And the karma is the seed from which the fruits of happiness or misery are produced. So the person who knows this field and the modifications of this field is called a Kṣetrajña. And the Kṣetrajña is applicable both to the Jivatma and the Paramatma. The Paramatma is the companion of the Jivatma. But both are called a Kṣetrajña. But they are not equal because Jivatma is the knower of only individual body. Paramatma is the knower of all the bodies. So the Jivatma misidentifies with the gross and subtle body, which are the products of Maya. So the subtle body is the psychic apparatus attending the Jiva, which includes the mind along with the 5 cognitive senses. So the subtle body is nothing but the combination of mind and the different jnanendriyas and the different karmendriyas and the 5 divisions of prana. So these two types of bodies are called the upadhis of the jiva, the gross body and subtle body. These are the 2 upadhis of the jiva. Subtle body consists of the mind, jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, and the different divisions of the prana, vital force. So upadhi means what? Designation or a limitation or a condition, adjunct or a nomenclature. That means something external has been superimposed upon the Jivatma. Something external has been superimposed upon the particular object. So suppose if we take a red rose near to a crystal, the crystal does not have a red color. Crystal is transparent. But the red rose, because it is taken near to the crystal, the red color is superimposed on the crystal and the crystal appears like a red. Although the crystal is colorless, but the reddishness is the upadhi on the crystal. Similarly, Jivatma is different from the gross body and subtle body. But the gross body and subtle body, these two upadhis are superimposed on the Jivatma. So, yaya sammohito jivo atmanam trigunatmakam paropi. Although the Jivatma is pure, he is transcendental to the mind, transcendental to the body. But the Jivatma appears to reflect or possess the modifications of the mind in the form of happiness and misery because of being proximity with the mind. So the whole world is revolving around this upadhi, identification. So now the IPL is going on. Lucknow Super Giants, that's one team. But if you try to look, there will not be a single player from the Lucknow in the team. Or if you, maybe probably one person may be there. Or probably, or there will not be a single player from the Lucknow Super Giants. Chennai Super Kings. It will be very difficult. Maybe hardly one or two persons may be there from the Chennai who may know Tamil. But they have created a team, and then people identify with the team. And they have the favorite team. They are fans of a particular team. Because such kind of upadhi is created in the minds of the people. Somebody identifies with Punjab Super Kings, Gujarat Titans, although there may not be any Gujaratis there. But certain fans have created an identity, they have created upadhi with that, and they watch the match by spending their time. And because people are watching, therefore crores of people, crores of rupees are involved. Suppose if the upadhis are not there, the IPL is finished immediately. Because upadhis have been created, people have superimposed certain things by identifying with a particular team. So therefore, so much of money is involved in the IPL. But suppose if these upadhis are not there, all this IPL or any other tournament is finished actually. So further, so the mental modifications are the upadhis of the jiva. Because these upadhis impose a limitation on the pure nature of the jiva. So apart from the mental modification, the gross body is also another upadhi in the jiva. And the gross body also restricts the awareness of the jivatma only within its boundary. The jivatma can know only its own body. The mind is called as avishuddha kartu, the impure agent. Actually, mind is inert by nature. It has no inherent agency. But why the mind is called as avishuddha karta? Mind actually it is inert. But it is called as a avishuddha karta. Karta can be used to describe only that which has an you can only term something as a karta which has consciousness, but mind is inert. But the mind exhibits consciousness by the association of the Kṣetrajña, that is the jivatma. Mind, because of the association of the jivatma, the inert mind exhibits consciousness. So once the mind is intelligized, the mind makes use of the senses and the vital force, different prana, to perform action and thus becomes an agent. And the mind is called as avishuddha. Why it is called avishuddha, impure? Because mind functions with a separate interest. For an independent, separate interest in forgetfulness of Bhagavan, who is the proprietor, with the source of the entire universe. So therefore, the impurity of the mind is because the mind has not acknowledged that Bhagavan is the source, Bhagavan is the proprietor, Bhagavan is the controller of everything. And the word jivatma can be used to indicate the living entity both in its pure transcendental and eternal nature as well as in the conditioned state. Jiva can be used to refer to a liberated jivatma and the baddha jivatma. So therefore, the term jivopadi has been used by the commentators to gloss the word jivasya appearing in the verse in order to clarify that the upadhis are a product of illusion and not the living entity itself. So upadhis are created by Maya. Upadhis are external to the Jivatma. Upadhis are not the living entity. Upadhis are created by the Jivatma. So the Jivatma considers the happiness and misery occurring in its body to be its own. And therefore the Jivatma remains absorbed in these feeling tones. He remains absorbed in the happiness and distress. And the Jivatma remains ignorant of its own true nature. And the true nature of the Jivatma is that Jivatma is transcendental, beyond all the happiness and misery. But although the Jivatma is distinct from the matter, Jivatma considers itself to be material. Paropi manute nartam tatkritam chapi padyate. Because it identifies himself with the matter, it goes through so many miseries. So therefore the Jivatma engages in materialistic activities, trying to fulfill his material desires. And this conditioning of the Jivatma has no beginning, anadi. That means there is no cause for this conditioning. Just like when we say Krishna is the cause of all causes, but there is no cause for Krishna. Namo namaste kilakaranaya nishkaranaya bhutakaranaya. Krishna is the cause of everything, but nishkaranaya, but he is without cause. Therefore, Krishna is the adbhuta karanaya. He is the amazing cause. Amazing cause because in this world, everything which is a cause of something, and that also has a cause. So the earth is the cause of the pot, but the earth has a cause. Potter is the cause of the pot, but the potter has a cause. But the Bhagavan is the cause of everything, but he has no cause. So similarly, the avidya of the Jivatma is also without cause. That means it is without beginning. So a cause, what is the definition of a cause? A cause is defined as that anything which is a cause, it must exist before the effect. A cause is that which must invariably exist prior to the effect that it produces. Suppose a pot is there. Pot maker is the cause. Pot maker exists before the pot. Earth exists before the pot. But if something is beginningless, it must be without a cause. The reason why the Jivatma's conditioning is stressed as being beginningless, that means causeless, is to refute the idea of original sin or a fall down from Vaikuntha. Because if we say Jiva fell from the Vaikuntha, that means there is a cause for the ignorance. But when the Shastras say that Jivatma's conditioning is beginningless, it is causeless. That means it immediately nullifies the idea that Jivatma fell from Vaikuntha. So, or of an inceptive choice to come to the material world from an intermediate region, or other misconceptions that are rampant in the Vaishnava world. So we discussed this in detail during the Bhagavad Sandarbha 63rd anuccheda, I think. So just another 5 minutes, complete. So therefore, it is for this reason that the vrittis are the mental modifications are called Nitya because in beginningless time, the mind is having this different modification, different impressions. So the word Nitya does not mean that they are always manifest, but that their flow has no beginning. So every vritti, every impression in the mind is temporary, but there is a continuous flow of them. The flow of them has no beginning, but there is a continuous flow. Sometimes you are thinking of certain thing, and then another moment something else will come. There's a continuous flow of them in the Jagrati and Swapna states. But in the Sushupti state, there is no experience of the vrittis. There is no external experience in the Sushupti. And then the other Kṣetrajña is the Paramatma. This Kṣetrajña, Paramatma, he witnesses the gross and subtle bodies of the Jivatma, but the Paramatma is never influenced or conditioned by them. That is why the famous example in the Mundaka Upanishad, Jivatma and Paramatma are compared to the two birds sitting in the tree. One bird is absorbed in enjoying the fruits of the tree, but the other bird is simply watching it. Because Paramatma is Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous. That means he is not dependent on anyone else for his existence. Paramatma being an expansion of Bhagavan, he is inherently endowed with many of the powers of Bhagavan, a partial powers of Bhagavan. And Paramatma never comes under the influence of Maya, unlike the Jiva. And then Jiva Goswami notes that the verb avadiyamana means is being placed or is established in the second principal words of the Sanucheda. The second shloka, the word avadiyamana is the last word. So that avadiyamana is in the passive voice. Karma kartari in the phrase, who is established in the self by his own Maya. So the use of the passive voice could be interpreted to imply that Maya is the agent who has caused Paramatma to be placed interior to the individual self. So the passive voice is used, avadiyamana. By that one may think that Maya is the agent. Ravana was killed by Rama. The passive voice. Who is the agent? Rama. So just like that, avadiyamana is used in the passive voice. Therefore, one may think that Maya is the agent. So the Paramatma is established in the self by his own Maya. So Jiva Goswami is clarifying the Paramatma's establishment in the self is not affected through the external energy Maya, but rather by his internal potency, Swamayaya, by his Swarupa Shakti. This confirms the independent status of Bhagavan, who performs actions through his own energies. And also, Atmani Avadiyamana. Here the Atmani means in his own self rather than within the individual self. That's why Jiva Goswami says that in his own intrinsic being, Swaswarupa. Also, the word Purusha has a particular significance. Etymologically, Purusha means one who reposes in the city. The city here refers to the bodies of the living beings. And therefore, like Kṣetrajña, Purusha can refer to either the individual self or the Paramatma, who is present as the witness in each body. So we will see in the later second to fourth anucheda. The word Purusha refers to the three aspects of Bhagavan. That is the Karanodakshaya Vishnu, Karbodakshaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, for facilitating the creative unfoldment of the cosmos. So in one of these aspects, he is present as the indweller in every body as the immanent self. That is the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is present as the Paramatma in every Atma. So Vasudeva, it comes from the Dhatu Vas. Vas means to reside. So Vasudeva similarly indicates that Bhagavan as the immanent self knows all the bodies because he resides in them. And therefore he is the prime Kṣetrajña. And the living entity is the secondary Kṣetrajña because he knows only the individual body. So now in the next part of the Anucheda, the Paramatma it will be further described by using the Bhagavad Gita shloka, the 13th chapter Bhagavad Gita shloka. So that we will take it in the next class. Second part of this first Anucheda. Hare Krishna. Anybody has any questions? Maharaj Yudhishthir was asked by Yaksha, what is more than grass? The answer given was thoughts. It is more than grass. We didn't get this one.
Prabhuji, in the context, I wrote that this mind, this creates one thoughts and then another thought and another thought. So how the mind is inert. So I remember that.
Prabhuji, Shushupti stage, you are nearing more towards absorption in the Lord, like more meditative mood you are in that.
Sushupti, Jivatma is alone. That's all. Alone with the. So, Sushupti, there is no. Mind is also not working. Any of the senses are not working. The Sushupti state, Jivatma is alone. And he gets a glimpse of the Brahmananda. So, therefore, he becomes refreshed after the deep sleep.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Prabhuji, what is the difference between the covering on Jiva by Maya Shakti and covering here given of mind?
Yeah, it's same only. Maya
Same.
Shakti only has created the mind.
Okay.
That mind is covering the Jivatma. The Jivatma is identifying with the mind.
Okay, okay. So there is no difference.
The mind is created by the Maya and the Jivatma is identifying with the mind. With the mind. Jivatma is covered by that mind.
Okay, okay. And one more clarification I want is between mind and intelligence. I mean, as far as we see that the intelligence is superior than mind because intelligence cover the mind. But is a mind superior to intelligence or intelligence is superior to mind?
So this point, I will tell you the actual definition.
Because Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 2nd canto, so this is when this is the starting creation starts from the Pradhan, then Mahatattva, agitation, the kal, jiva, and other thing, then the ahankar comes.
So it is
So
basically, see,
creation, in that creation, it appears that mind is superior than the intelligence. But
so
what
I'll
is
read the
exactly?
actual definition. You can see the screen.
Okay.
Buddhir adyavasanaya samshayam kurute manaha abhimano ahankaras chittam smaranakarakam. So actually there is
Yeah.
only subtle body. Based on the function, the subtle body is called as either as a buddhi or the mind or the ahankara or as a chitta. So the buddhi is for making adyavasanaya, making decisions and coming to conclusion. This, based on this function, the subtle body is called as buddhi. And mind creates various thoughts and doubts. Samshayam kurute manaha. The function of, based on the function of creating thoughts and doubts, the subtle body is called as mind. Abhimano ahankara. The based on the function of abhimana, identification with something, the subtle body is called as ahankara.
Okay.
And the based on the function of remembrance, the subtle body is called as chitta. This is the Bhagavat Tatparya Nirnaya of Madhvacharya. Similar conclusion given by Ramanujacharya. Adyavasaya abhimana chinta vritti bedan manayeva buddhi ahankara chitta shabdair vyapadishyate. It is only the mind which gets designated as buddhi, ahankara and chitta respectively, due to performing functions of adyavasaya. When there's a function of decision making or concluding, the mind is called as buddhi. When by the function of abhimana, the mind is called as ahankara. And by the function of thoughts and doubts, it is called as chitta.
Thoughts and doubt, it is called as chitta. Or it is the life.
No, chitta here, it means
thoughts and doubts. Now, one more clarification I want. They say that when we use Bhagavatam, it is also says that Antakarana. Antakaran includes mind, intelligence, false ego, and
chitta.
All four. All four.
Yes.
So you mean that actually mind incorporates everything together. So when according to his action, it is what do you call it? Defined.
Based on the function, it is called as a mind or intelligence or ahankara.
So you mean the Antakaran is one, but then according to the function, it is described as in the four parts.
Yes.
And one more thing that somewhere I have read it. I don't know the reference. It is say that gross body. This gross body is outer five senses, and then subtler than the gross body is mind. Subtler than the mind is the buddhi, and subtler than that is ahankar, and subtler than everything is the soul. I mean, the picture was drawn. They put the soul at the point, and over with the first circle is of ahankar, then another circle that is of buddhi, and then ultimately mind, and then this is what he said. Is that correct, or it is just an explanation?
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter end. 1 minute. How do I go to Bhagavad Gita?
But if 5.17 also is something, 5.
See, Bhagavad Gita Krishna says,
4 point.
Indriyani Paranyagur, Indriyebhya Paramanaha, Manasastu Parabuddhir, Yobuddhe Paratastu Sam.
Which verse is that?
Just I will show you the third chapter or fourth chapter. I think third chapter. So third chapter, 41st, 42nd shloka. I'll show you. Let me share. Indriyani Paranyagur, Indriyebhya Paramanaha, Manasastu Parabuddhir, Yobuddhe Paratastu Saha.
Yeah.
The senses are supreme. But superior to the senses, Indriyebhya Paramanaha, superior to the senses is the mind. Manasastu Parabuddhir, superior to the mind is the intelligence.
Yeah.
Yobuddhe Paratastu Saha. And superior to the intelligence is the Atma. 3.42.
Yeah, I got it.
43. Evam buddhe param buddhva. Evam buddhe param buddhva. Thus, understanding that Atma is superior to the, or Atma is distinct from the intelligence. Atma is superior to that. Samstabhyatmanam atmana jakishatrum mahabaho kamarupam darashadam. So, fixing the mind and the soul by the fixed intelligence, destroy the enemy of kama, which is difficult to conquer.
Yeah.
That is what Krishna says. Conclude the third chapter.
So now one thing is clear with me now, that consciousness or the mind is more or less same or different? Because
See,
many
mind
people
is actually
interpret.
inert by nature, but because mind, because of its association with the Jivatma, which is conscious, the mind acts like an agent.
It's the quality of the Jivatma. Yes.
Mind is actually inert by nature.
Okay.
It has no consciousness. Only Jivatma has consciousness. But mind or the body, because of its association with the Jivatma, it appears conscious. It acts like an agent.
So does it mean that there is the taking mind, intelligence, false ego as a consciousness is not correct, because all these things are inert,
They are
material.
actually inert. But the Jivatma identifies with the mind, which has so many impressions.
Yes. You mean, is it the Jivatma identifying, is it something like a Sandhini?
No. Sandhini is the spiritual potency of the Lord.
No, that is okay. I understand.
Sandhini is not. Sandhini don't bring it into because Sandhini, Samvit and Hladini, they are the three aspects of the
spiritual
internal energy of Krishna.
So that is not, that cannot be.
Jivatma, because of his Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna, he identifies. He is in.
So we cannot compare that with this.
Yes, sir.
So that consciousness, how you will differentiate between the mind and the consciousness?
So consciousness means what?
Consciousness is throughout the body.
Jivatma is Jnana Swarupa. It is made of Jnana. It is made of consciousness.
So the consciousness is a property of
the Jivatma.
Jiva. And it has no relation with the mind.
Mind is inert by nature. But the mind because of its association with the Jivatma, mind appears like an agent. Mind appears to be conscious. But actually mind is inert by nature.
Inert by nature, and it helps the function of the body. for a soul? Is it it is like that?
Yeah, the sense.
Because
Yeah,
of mind only Jiva
because of
doesn't
mind, a person is bound in this material world. Mind is the only cause.
so
Mind is
for the entanglement.
The Jivatma is identifying with the mind, and
Yeah.
and he forgets Krishna.
So that again comes to the same thing, that the Maya Shakti and mind covering is the same.
Yeah, Maya Shakti has created the mind. The
Uh-huh.
Jivatma identifies with the mind.
Okay.
Since beginningless time.
Yes, it is very clear now. Okay, Prabhu, thank you. But then to end up with is that the consciousness cannot be equated with the mind, intelligence, and ego.
No.
Isn't it? Okay, that's a material things.
Because
Those are
mind,
material
intelligence, and ego, they are all inert.
inert, and the consciousness is
Consciousness is the function of the Atma.
Atma.
Jivatma is Jnana Swarupam. That Jnana means the consciousness.
Okay.
Jivatma
Okay.
is made of consciousness. Jivatma is made of Jnana.
So then, if this is a property of or the consciousness is related to the
Jivatma.
soul, soul. So this consciousness, how it functions, what role consciousness has, or it is
Consciousness is the property of the Atma. It's the function of the Atma.
but
Because of consciousness, we have the feeling, oh, I am this. I know this. We are feeling that I am existing. I am this. You are this. We are actually knowing, we are getting knowledge.
Oh, so
Consciousness is the symptom of the life. If there is no
understand.
consciousness, there is no life. The Jivatma is left, there is no life. Because consciousness is there, the consciousness is the function of the Jivatma.
Consciousness
The
is a
Jivatma
function
is not there, we say he has left his body.
Consciousness will
There is
go.
no consciousness.
It will also go along with the. It will go along with the jiva from one body to another body, and it will take also along with it the subtle body, isn't it?
Yeah, Jivatma, as long as he is there in the material world, he is traveling with the subtle body and identifying with the subtle body. The subtle body is inert by nature. But consciousness is the property of the Jivatma. Jivatma is made of consciousness. Satchit Ananda. Jivatma is eternal. It is made of consciousness. Chit. That's what.
Yes. And one more thing, that it is, what about the prana? Prana is there when a person is living, and one person leaves the body. He said that the prana is also gone. Pran gone. So how you
Pranas are the
identify
different
that
airs
pran
within the
with
body.
how you identify that pran with the jiva?
No, they are all part of the subtle body.
Pran is part of subtle body?
Subtle body. Karmendriyas, Jnanendriyas, mind, the prana, they are all the part of the subtle body.
Okay.
Which is inert by nature.
So the pran is also inert. Okay. Now it's clear. Okay. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, in simple words, if we have to just define, can we say that consciousness is a symptom through which the soul expresses itself? Is it right to say that? If we have to just...
Yes, we can say. Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. By that, the soul expresses itself. Yes. Okay, I think it's 8:10. We'll end here.
Sorry, Prabhuji, you send the recording, because then if Saturday is the class, then I need to hear again.
This Saturday, mostly we may not be able to have class. Next week we'll have, but I'll send the recording.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat. Thank you.
Thank you, Balakrishna bro. You are back to India or you are?
No, I'll be planning to come next month.
You are in UK. No.
Yeah, UK. Provided those flights are working. Yeah,
Acha.
Middle East war is creating problems everywhere.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Kindly pray that I can come to service of Radha Gopinath ji.
Hmm. Yes.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hare.
Hare.